Hey Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. This is a follow-up to the video I already put out on the Orlando shooting of June 12th being reported as the worst act of terrorism since September 11th. Since making that video, several people have written me and asked why I think Orlando is being targeted with these tragedies right now. The death of Christina Grimmie, the pop star, then the Orlando nightclub shooting, and now the death of a 2-year-old by an alligator that has been made a front page story for about the last 24 hours. After being asked those questions, I went back and visited my research to see if there was anything in Orlando recently, and I recalled that they just had these Invictus Games in Orlando, Florida. Games to celebrate veterans wounded in the wars of recent decades, wars that have been needlessly created by tyrants who rule over us with deception, and the same tyrants who put on these games in a very sick way. And now what I'm about to show you is how these Invictus Games and the poem Invictus are directly connected to what is going on in Orlando right now. Let's begin with the emphasis for their logo, I am. This is a very important phrase to Freemasonry. It comes from the Bible. I am is also directly connected to September 11th. This goes back to some of my oldest work. Let me share this with you in case you've never heard this before. The World Trade Centers were first bombed in '93 on February 26th. On that same day, the movie Falling Down came out. Talk about foreshadowing. On September 11th, 2001, the World Trade Centers did come down. And it was speculated in media how the towers could have come down if the bombs were placed more accurately on February 26, 1993. That span of days from February 26, 1993 to September 11, 2001 was a span of 3,119 days. And the reason that span of days is interesting is twofold. The date September 11th, 2001 in numerology breaks down to 9/11. 11 doesn't need to be broken down in numerology. Numerology is where you add digits together to make a smaller number. Multiples of 11 do not need to be broken down. You break everything else down to a single digit. So 9/11, and then 2001 becomes 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 1 equals 3. So 9/11/3, the reflection of 3119. This number, 3,119, is the 444th prime, which is a Masonic signature. Masonic also sums to 74. The World Trade Center sat on the 74th meridian, which cuts through New York City. There's a whole lot more to it than that, but I just want to establish the significance of I am in these numbers. I is the 9th letter, A is the 1st, M is the 13th, so 9113, just like the date September 11th, 2001, just like the reflection between the '93 World Trade Center bombing and September 11th. Now, I am was this huge emphasized phrase in the games that were just in Orlando, which is now the site of the worst act of terrorism since New York City on September 11th. It was October 28th, 2015 that the announcement was made for the Invictus Games. This was a date with 73 numerology. The word United also sums to 73. Think about United Kingdom, United States. The Club Pulse, where this just happened in Florida, sums to 73. 73, the Invictus Games announced on a date with 73 numerology. If you didn't see the ad for it, it was a little bit of friendly trash talk between the Queen and President Barack Obama and Michelle, as well as one of the princes. I think it was Prince William. Here's what's interesting. From the date of that announcement, October 28th, 2015, for the Invictus Games, to June 12th, 2016, the date of the tragedy at Pulse, was a span of 228 days. And in Gematria, United States of America sums to 228. So does death. And this is a national news story about a mass tragedy, mass death, that is part of an agenda for the nation. making people think that there's this boogeyman threat out there and we need to look to Big Brother to save us. Big Brother is the real terrorist, and this is how Big Brother dupes the people it governs over into going along with its criminal agenda. This is what's been going on all this time in this nation. If you think what I'm saying is mistaken or coincidence, I have a book coming out very soon. I show how the entire history of this nation is this way. And I mean the entire history, ongoing by the same numbers. From October 28th, 2015, the date of the announcement for the Invictus Games, to June 12th, 2016, is also a full span of 229 days, a number that I talked about in the last video I did on the shooting. 229 is the 50th prime. The first day of the shooting, they reported that 50 were killed, 53 more injured. They've now said the shooter killed 49 people plus himself for a total of 50. The shooter's name is Omar Mir Sadiq Mateen. Gematria of 229. They're saying he's 29 years old. Remember that his age, because I'm going to tell you something about 29 in just a moment. His name, the small way, also sums to 103, like the sum of 50 dead and 53 injured. But we're going to focus on this 229 for a moment. The man who wrote the poem Invictus is William Ernest Henley. Gematria of 229. This is the author of Invictus. His date of death is July 11th, 1903 in history. Remember that date, July 11th? That's 29 days after the shooting at Pulse. They say the shooter's 29 years old. We might see another headline in Orlando on July 11th. And I don't say this to scare anyone. I just say to be aware, because this is the way they code their stories and the way stories often follow in the predictive programming. All of these details are coded characters. There's no such thing as Omar Mir Sadiq Mateen. Who this person is, there's a lot of things we could speculate. At the end of this video, I'll show you a video that's out circulating on Facebook right now. It seems that this guy is an actor of sorts and has been used in other government productions before. But anyhow, just remember these details they're coding into them. This traces back in history as well as connects to the details of the actual shooting, something I explain again and again. The news stories that we get are riddles, they're tributes to history, and they're often forecasting what is to come. So William Ernest Henley died in 1903. If you missed the last video that I did, 1903 in numerology is a lot like 193. 193 is the 44th prime. The word kill equals 44. Shooting equals 44. This shooting came 193 days after the December 2nd, 2015 San Bernardino shooting hoax. That one was most definitely a hoax. Some people are saying this one in Orlando is a false flag, but the evidence I have seen looks like this is a hoax as well. No matter who is responsible is what is important here. And it is our federal government, our local police, our media. They are the ones duping us by the numbers. From the year of his passing, 1903, until 2016 is a span of 113 years. 113 is a very important number to the Freemasons as well. Scottish, as in Scottish Rite Freemasonry, equals 113. In Bava Kama 113a, it says it's okay for a Jew to lie to somebody who's not Jewish. Think about how the Zionist Jews control our media. They code 113 all the time into their wrongdoing in a number of ways. Here, 113 years after his death, this story, synced up with the Invictus Games. It's all part of the tribute. But anyway, mainstream 113, dishonest 113, green screen 113. All things they use to deceive us. The mainstream media, the green screen, dishonest information. William Ernest Henley, best remembered for Invictus. So anyhow, also big news today, Prince William appears on the cover of Attitude, a gay magazine. Prince William in Gematria sums to 144, like Orlando, Florida. We just talked about the connection between the Invictus Games and the Orlando shooting. I want to take you back here and look at some of the Invictus Games programming before any of these tragedies transpired. When they put out the promotion, or hold on, I'll bring you to that in a second. This is what I want to show you. When they put out the promotion for the Invictus Games, there was this ad right here, the Prince and the Queen. You see the I am on the back of the brochure, Invictus Games. Check this out. Zoom this in as far as I can for you. Here in the brochure that they're looking at, very interesting. You have a U.S. runner right here with the number 239. 239 is how old the United States of America is right now. It will turn 240 on July 4th. Here's the UK runner. He has the number 223 on him. 223, a very special number to the Freemasons, a number that they code all the time. Masonic equals 223, the Synagogue of Satan equals 223, the Star-Spangled Banner equals 223. All part of the Invictus Games and the Queen, the President. Around this same time, Donald Trump was campaigning in Orlando saying the United States needs to legitimize terror, use more torture tactics. He was saying we need to legitimize torture, make it more mainstream. It's useful for fighting terrorists. This was Donald Trump saying this in Orlando around this same time, and now we get this big terror attack. Donald Trump is a stooge. He's out there repeating garbage that his puppet masters tell him to say. The word puppets equals 113. That's what you see on TV. Mainstream, dishonest puppets. People such as Donald Trump repeating their canned lines that are all part of this planned, scripted agenda. Anyway, I said remember, when Donald Trump's out there calling for more torture in Orlando, just remember that in case anything happens soon after. Well, here you go. The Invictus Games, they began May 8th, a date that can be written 5/8, Freemasonry equals 58. It was a date with 49 numerology. They've now dropped the kill total to 49 at the Pulse shooting. Revelation equals 49. Revelation is the playbook for the Masons. This nation, its original capital, Philadelphia, gets its name from Revelation. The powers that be use the Bible to script history. It doesn't matter what your spiritual belief is, what your religious belief is, this is what's going on. This is what you need to get privy to. The word Invictus also has gematria of 117, and again, the man who wrote the poem Invictus died on July 11th, a date that can be written 11/7. This is how the Masons have always operated, doing things by the numbers, doing things that are tribute, killing a man who's known for this poem on a date that's fitting. This is what they do. Again and again. If you just missed my video on the death of Alf, the death of Brian Robinson, the football player, check that out. Same things, dying by numbers that pertain to what they were most remembered for. That was yesterday's video. And the same type of video I've done 100 times before. With regards to 223 being coded on the UK runner that we saw in the brochure during the Invictus Games, this was the stage. I am the master of my fate was the phrase. Notice how they got the I am emphasized. I am the master of my fate, 223. Just like Masonic, just like Star-Spangled Banner, just like the Synagogue of Satan. Look at Star-Spangled Banner in Jewish gematria, 666. It's the kind of nation we live in. A nation that worships materialism, greed, all things wrong, thinking we're better than everybody else. Aren't these the qualities of America? 223. These numbers are no accident. Numbers of great significance to these people coded again and again. With regards to 666, which we just saw, there's a relationship between 144 and 666. If you sum the first 144 decimal points of pi, the number having to do with cycles and circles, that you learned about in geometry class. If you sum the first 144 decimal points of pi, it sums to 666. The phrase mark of the beast equals 144, often a phrase for the number 666. These numbers have meaning, they have relationships. It's part of the reason Orlando, Florida was chosen. Also, what I just realized is the Bilderberg meeting took place June 9th to June 12th in Dresden, Germany this year, the city that nobody talks about from World War II, where the greatest loss of life happened at once, even worse than Hiroshima or Nagasaki. The entire city was firebombed as a refugee city, a non-participant in the entire war. But at the end, the United States and UK, the people who just put on the Invictus Games, the evil tyrants who really did win World War II, they firebombed this city of innocent people, murdered hundreds of thousands at once in Dresden. Anyway, the Bilderberg meeting, the annual meeting for billionaire elites, was just there from June 9th to June 12th. Notice the last date, June 12th, was the date of the Orlando shooting massacre. Bilderberg is a word with 55 gematria, just like Satan. I also noticed that Bilderberg sums to 82, like rainbow, also like a number heavily coded into the shooting. I talked about the significance of 82 in the last video I did, but I didn't catch the parallel with Bilderberg, and I didn't realize the Bilderberg meeting was happening the same day. The date of the shooting was a date with 54 numerology. The first Bilderberg meeting was in 1954, possibly part of the tribute. So now let's review the 3 tragedies. I'm going to share information that I haven't talked about in the prior videos I've done on Orlando or Christina Grimmie. But here's yesterday's headline. Going into this morning, a boy 2 years old taken by the Disney World Hotel. Look at this headline. Boy 2 taken by alligator at Disney World Hotel. What's that equal? 444, just like Masonic. And the Freemasons, they get off on scaring the people of the world, giving them needless negativity, order through chaos, divide and conquer. These are their mottos. Always coding their headlines with their Masonic tributes. Today they gave the name of the boy. They said his name is Lane Graves. And think about graves, cemetery, death. This is what they're programming. His name in gematria sums to 41, just like alligator. And I'm talking an awful lot about 41 lately, the 13th prime number. USA equals 41. USA began with 13 colonies, 41 the 13th prime. The word Oz equals 41. Think about the Wizard of Oz, controlling the populace with his screens and his smoke and his fire and his loudspeaker. Behind the green curtain, a lot like a green screen. You learn this coding of gematria, you see through these hoaxes. Par for the course, they have Sheriff Jerry Demings out there telling the story. Jerry Demings, a guy who's willing to lie to the masses on the TV to collect a check. Too many of these people in this world. Jerry Demings, also getting paid by the taxpayers who he deceives. His name in gematria sums to 147, just like police. If you follow my channel, I'm routinely saying this. The police officers in the story, their names code out to these numbers. They're agents. They're actors. They're liars. They're deceivers. He disappeared at Lake Buena Vista, Florida, gematria of 82, just like rainbow, just like Bilderberg. All this happening at the same time. Rainbow, the clear parallel is the symbol for, the homosexual community. They say the gator's 4 to 7 feet long. The Masons love 4 and 7. Masonic equals 74. Jewish equals 74. Walt Disney Resort, 74. 4 to 7 foot gator. Walt Disney Resort also sums to 227. In case you're new here, this is a very important lesson about the number 227. Let me share this with you real quick. If you divide 22 by 7, you get the number for pi. It's the way to get to pi. 22 divided by 7. Pi begins with 3.14. March 14th is Pi Day. Look at what 22 divided by 7 is in gematria. 314. A lot like 3.14. This number is incredibly important to these people. Remember, we were just talking about the first 144 decimal points summed to 666? Everything in this world works on cycles and circles, day and night, seasons, life and death. This coding isn't arbitrary. It's a way of communicating the way this world works, and it's part of the reason that the powers that be code as they do. Thus, Walt Disney Resort 227. They said the family was from Nebraska. Nebraska is one of 3 states with a 44 gematria. The kill number, that's a typo. It should have said 44 right there. Here's Officer Jerry Demings. Shame on you. Baby pen was near water. This phrase has gematria of 213. This is another number coded into routine killing. If you've ever heard the song Regulators, Warren G, Nate Dogg, they sing about this number that was part of their rap group 213. Nate Dogg died 187 days from February 13th. 187, the homicide code. Tupac Shakur, he released his album on February 13th. He died 213 days later. This year, Kobe Bryant, he finished his career against the Utah Jazz, scoring 60 points, 213 days after Moses Malone died at age 60, who was the first high school player drafted to the pros in Utah, played the majority of his career in Philadelphia, where Kobe's from, plus a whole lot more. 213, a number that has to do with killing, something that they code into their headline. Baby pen was near water. These numbers have real meaning, but they often use them in their mainstream lies. Supposedly, the child was taken to Reedy Creek Emergency Center, having gematria of 104, like 10-4 message received. The child's name, Lane Graves. The small way equaled 41, like alligator. The big way, it also sums to 104, like the hospital. Also, with the K exception, 113, like mainstream, like dishonest. They weren't putting out the child's name until later today. They were just saying he was 2. 2 has that 58 coding, like Freemasonry. Also, when you think about words, we just had a shooting at a gay club. Now we have a gator tragedy, I think this is also part of their riddle, part of their madness. 2-year-old boy, nightclub, Freemason, all 42 coding, just like TV, where they send us the propaganda through. So also, now they're reporting that the man who shot up the club, he had been casing Disneyland. This also paralleled the Bataclan theater shooting. After Bataclan, they said that the shooters were casing the Disneyland in Paris. And there was already all these parallels between the Bataclan theater and this event, which I covered in the last video, again, that's linked in the description. If you haven't seen that video, please check it out. It's even more important than this one. But anyway, this whole Disney scare thing also comes at the time that they're about to open a new Disneyland in Shanghai, China. They're calling it Shanghai Disneyland, which has gematria of 174, like New World Order. This number is no joke to these people. See my video on the signing of the TPP on the 174th meridian, 17 weeks and 4 days after the step prior that they had with that bill. They operate by these numbers again and again. Shanghai Disneyland also sums to 84, like United States of America. They're saying it cost $5.5 billion to build. The original Disneyland opened in 55. Again, the word Satan equals 55. Think about what Disneyland is. This perverted company that hides, perverted imagery and cartoons that are made for children. Subliminal programming. Subliminal programming is real. It's this coding within words. It's things hidden in drawings and images. Our minds absorb a lot more than we're aware of. The subconscious. So this Shanghai, China, it's opening tomorrow, June 16th, 2016. A lot of people say that 616 is the real 666. Something interesting to think about. This is a date with 58 numerology, just like Freemasonry, also just like the name Bob Iger, the current Jew who is the head of Disney. The history of Disney, the company, has always been run by Jews. If you learn about Jewish culture and what is in their holy books, there's all sorts of very troubling things, such as it's okay to have sex with little boys. And when you look at what the Jews are responsible for in this world, such as the Catholic Church and the pedophilia that goes on in that church, it all starts to make a lot of sense. And you start to think about what freedom of religion really is for people that have this sick of a religion. It's okay to have sex with little boys. It's okay to lie to people who aren't Jews. This is really what's behind the freedom of religion, because if you learn who's been creating the laws in this nation since the beginning, it has been this same gang. You know, the reason it has been made taboo to speak out against the Jews in this world is because the Jews know that they are the purveyors of so many things that are wrong. Think about how they've always run this company, Disney, that makes movies for children, that has all this perverted imagery hidden in the background. Erections in men's pants, words written in the clouds. What's it about? When you think about it, as kids who grow up with these Disney movies, then what do we do as adults? Then we go and watch the other movies they make for us that are full of what? Violence, killing, explosions, watching other people having sex. The reason so many people have to watch other people have sex is because they've been brainwashed into thinking sex is this scary, dangerous, bad thing from all the other angles of programming going on in this world. So people, they don't even have sex themselves, they just go and watch other people have sex, living vicariously. This sick gang knows what they've done. They call themselves the synagogue of Satan. Remember, Satan equals 55. The first Disneyland opened in 55. Disney, one of the biggest corporations in this entire world. The word corporation equals 144. The word waiting in gematria equals 58. Emphasis on the waiting. He was waiting before the crocodile got him. Just another Freemasonry tribute. Here's the Jew, Bob Iger, following others such Michael Eisner, many others. What I noticed about Robert Allen Iger is his name gematria of 73. Hot number right now in Orlando. The pulse of the nation with these scare stories coming out of Florida. Robert Iger in gematria also sums to 117 like Invictus. Watch out for July 11th. Maybe we'll get the next scare story actually at Disneyland. ISIS attacks Disneyland. Robert Iger was born February 10th, 1951. Date with 82 numerology. Numbers we're talking about. 63, if you add every number up to 63, it sums to 2016. A big number this year. Robert Iger also equals 63. He goes by Bob Iger, though. But this is what it is. A network of Freemasons and Jews running the show, duping the masses, saying it's okay because, hey, they're just goyim. Goyim. You can lie to the goyim. It says it right here, Bava Kama 113a. I'm a good Jew. I'm going to go molest my little boys now because it says it's okay in my holy book right here. And don't get it twisted. I have something for all the religions of the world. It's just I know who the real sickness is. There's a lot of sick people in all sorts of religions, but there's a root of this, and it is the Jews. So obvious. So now what we're looking at here is Louis Bourbano. This was the first CNN witness on TV. He told the story of the person who got shot by a bullet, but the bullet didn't penetrate them. It was hanging out of their body like this. Because that's how it works, right? When you get shot by a bullet, it just sticks to your chest like a Nerf arrow. Anyway, Louis Bourbano was on CNN telling this. I pointed out how Louis Bourbano equals 44, shooting equals 44. What I didn't know then, though, was that this guy was a registered actor in the IMDb database. And check out what he's most recently remembered for. A music video that came out September 25th, 2015 called Spirit of Orlando, Shooting Up. This came out on a date with 49 numerology. They're now saying 49 people died at the club. This name, Spirit of Orlando, shooting up sums to 137, the 33rd prime number. A gay club in Orange County on Orange Street. They always have to code 33 into their hoax shootings. And here it is forecast in a big way. I'm wondering how many other witnesses who've gone on the TV are in the IMDb database. It's probably more than just Louis Bourbano. CNN headlines, killer laughed during massacre. And I notice how they keep getting the Dunkin' Donuts in all their shots. It is right next door, but something tells me that Dunkin' Donuts might be a sponsor of this just for some free advertising. Killer laughed during massacre has gematria of 142, just like Islamic extremism, just like terrorists. Remember, the September 11th attack lasted 102 minutes or an hour and 42. Important numbers to these people. Numbers I talked about in the first video I did on this shooting. The headlines continue. They've also now put out this image of the wife saying her name. On TV, they keep showing her in the hoodie with the number 86 on the back. Remember, symbol equals 86, triangle equals 86, pyramid equals 86. Think about the triangle in regards to the gay community. Her name is Noor Salam, which in gematria sums to 41 and 50. 50 people dead, 49 people plus the shooter. Day one, they just reported 50. Noor Salam also equals 122 like Freemason. San Francisco also equals 122 and sits on the 122nd meridian in case a story goes across the country over there now. Remember the day of the shooting, they said that there was a near shooting in Santa Monica, all coded out by the numbers. But they're saying, should they charge this wife? They knew that she had heard her husband say things such as, that he wanted to cause a mass tragedy like this. But just think about what this really is for Americans, this type of programming. How many women have husbands who come home and say really angry shit about how they'd like to kill their boss or whatever? We all know that people talk like this when they're angry. Now what's happening to people is they're sitting at home, they're watching a news story like this, and they're thinking, oh my God, maybe my husband really will kill. And oh my God, what if he does? Maybe I'll get charged. This programming touches people because these are narratives that do intertwine with the lives of Americans. Fortunately, most people just talk out of their ass when they're angry, and they never really do anything. Bringing the wife in as well. Wife has gematria of 43 like massacre. In this story, they had this shown here, Terror in Orlando, the victims. And then they show 33-year-old Martin Benitez Torres, a name in gematria that sums to 107, just like shooting. Just like shooting. Terror in Orlando has gematria of 88, like poison, like program. And that's what this is about. Poisoning and programming us with fear. Also, if you are someone who's donating to these GoFundMe campaigns for these shooting hoaxes, know that what you are doing is funding terrorism truly. This money is used to create the next terror hoax, which is a real form of terrorism. Whether it's fake or real, all that matters is what is implanted in the mind's eye of people who are subjected to this news. And all of this fundraising is no doubt being used to pay for the next batch of crisis actors so they can put on the next hoax. GoFundMe is them. These people own the internet. I can tell you a story from last year. Last year, after the Oklahoma-Stillwater homecoming parade crash before the football game, something put on by the numbers, something that was connected to the plane crashes of their basketball teams. I was so disgusted by it. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do, people. I'm going to set up a GoFundMe page. If you guys can help me raise $2,000, I'm going to fly out to Stillwater. I'm going to stay there for a week. I'm going to film a small documentary. I'm going to educate these college students about what's going on in the world, how we can stop these tragedies. Within an hour of putting up that GoFundMe, I raised about $800. What happened was my GoFundMe account was frozen by the organization GoFundMe, and my Facebook page was shut down. I had to provide Facebook with a copy of my driver's license. I couldn't post on my blog for a period of time. Everything on the internet got locked down when I tried to raise money to go do this thing. $800 and I was shut down like that. Even had my Facebook page taken away. GoFundMe is owned by this gang of frauds. These people control the internet, they control the web. This is how the show goes. The reason $3 million is raised for this thing is because that's what they tolerate. Money that comes in for their evil empire. A little bit of money going to a guy who's trying to spread some truth. They're not having it. And they remind who the owners are. You know, there was nothing I could do about it. Everything was shut down and frozen. Also, I don't mean to have a laugh at anybody's expense, but this was in the paper up here on June 12th. This is the Tacoma Tribune. I live in Seattle, Tacoma just south of us. Look at this. This story is about somebody who was supposedly at the Orlando shooting. In the audience, Grant Faggot couldn't describe the impact of the final shooting of 50 people in the gay nightclub, something he read about just before going to bed early Sunday. Grant Faggot, the gay club. The people who run the media, again, are the Masons and these Zionist Jews who are sick fucks, perverts, people who really do get off on fucking the masses in the ass. And just look at this shit. You know, Grant Faggot. These people are the worst. And look at their emphasized headline. The victims look like my family. Gematria 322. Their Masonic coding. Then what happens after the shooting? Trump makes some, remarks. Then you got Obama and Hillary getting on him. This is what I told everyone the show was going to be a year ago. Donald Trump's this stooge running. He's going to play the part of the stooge to make Hillary look legitimate because nobody likes Hillary. This is how they're going to shoo her in as president. It's so obvious. This headline equals 87, just like Clinton. 222. 2 represents division. When you triple 2, just more division. That's what this is all about. Creating these bogus narratives and then getting people fighting over them. With regards to Christina Grimmie, I did a video on her death. A lot of the routine numbers coded in. Her full name sums to 137, like the 33rd prime. She died at age 22, right after the basketball game. A lot of celebrity deaths in the time of basketball. A lot of parallels between what's going on in Orlando, the home of an NBA team, and what's going on in the NBA Finals. This is how the powers that be sync it all up. They got their scripted news stories with their scripted sports as all part of the agenda. And the common link is when you turn on the TV, you're getting programmed. When you're watching the basketball game, you're going to hear them talk about this Orlando shooting and this alligator and this Christina Grimmie. And it's all going to be reinforced. The TV is owned and operated by these people. The point I really want to make, though, about her death is this right here. How they were emphasizing that word voice. Voice. And this story came the day before the Orlando nightclub shooting. Voice equals 54, son equals 54, love equals 54. The shooting at the homosexual club came on a date with 54 numerology. And I think this is now what they were trying to emphasize. The word oracle equals 54, having to do with future telling. This headline might have been hinting for what was to come the night after. Remember, the Warriors streak got snapped at 54 games. They play at Oracle Arena. Scripted sports by the numbers. Scripted news by the numbers. CNN headlines about encasing Disneyland, 139 coding like Freemasonry, also 112, the alt dialing code for 911. Disneyland has gematria 44 and 107, just like shooting. I think that eventually one of these days we're going to get a real shooting story at Disneyland for the psychological impact it will have on so many. Think about the percentage of the country that travels to Disneyland, that saves up their hard-earned money to go to Disneyland. And just to switch gears for a second, every single day, if you learn the language of gematria, you can see how bullshit news headlines are contrived. Here's a really stupid story from yesterday. Dog swallows gorilla glue. Vet extracts perfect mold of stomach. This story came on a date with 56 numerology. The doctor who the story's about, Dr. Baez, has gematria 56, just like Gorilla Glue. This story is really just product placement, advertising, bullshit information to fill up people's head with more needless junk. To wrap this up, we've covered a lot of information. The big thing to take away is the connection from the Invictus Games to what's going on in Orlando right now. And also remember the date July 11th, syncing up with when the poet for Invictus died. The word Invictus equals 117, like July 11th. We saw how the birth numerology of Bob Iger, the head of Disney, has this same number sequence. If any clue has been left from this incident for the next date to come, it sure looks like July 11th, which again follows the Orlando nightclub shooting by 29 days when they said the shooter was 29 years old, having the same name gematria as the poet. Again, if you haven't seen the first video I did on the Orlando shooting, you got to check that out. So much more important information there. Until next time, truth seekers.